Jonas Manashowitz here for Drummers Universe, speaking with my good friend, world-class drummer, Evans and Dorsey, Pro Mark and Dorsey, Gary Weiss. And,
you can't forget VK snares, Raptoril cymbals.
All right, we've definitely got the gear we need, and we've got the player to implement all of the fantastic music on it. Gary, I want to really thank you for doing this.
My pleasure. We go way back.
We do. Actually, high school. Even in high school, Gary was, one of the drummers that everybody talked about here on Staten Island. So I guess let's harken back to that, actually. You won a Louis Bellson Award, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. Actually, it's...
We're gonna film that? Oh, okay. Maybe let's keep it simple.
It does. Thanks
proudly
to
displayed.
This was the Louis Bellson National Drum Contest.
And you were how old at the time?
1979, so 15.
You were 15.
I think the limit was 16. You had to be 16 years old or less.
As I said, ahead of his time, even in the 70s.
But this was the regionals that, they had in the city, maybe 25 people, whatever. And then there was like another section that went to Boston, and I came in third. But
hey,
whatever. It was a great experience, and
for sure.
I actually saw Louis Bellson in a drum clinic, around maybe about 2 years later than that. So,
okay.
It was great. So
towards the end of his career, I guess.
Yeah.
And he was a double bass, right?
He was a double.
Early.
He basically was one of the pioneers.
Right. Yeah.
And so, and I still have my Slingerland kit. So,
fantastic.
Great times.
What a great award. A set of Slingerland drums.
Yeah.
So I want to talk a little bit about a lot of drummers I talk to and other interviews I've done. I like to talk about what might be called the moment. Okay. Just to get a bit personal, for me, it was hearing the Ticket to Ride be I didn't know what was different about it, but I knew there was something that I hadn't really heard before.
Right.
Also, for me, it was actually seeing a drummer for the first time on a drum kit.
Right.
I thought it was magical, and I still do.
Right.
So do you have, if you can isolate one or two moments where you knew, okay, this is something else, and it's a part of, who I am?
Well, I'll be honest with you. It was nothing like that.
Okay. Okay, great.
Basically, try to make a long story short, when I was around, late 5th grade, they took us to the library, and on the table where they featured, some books.
Right.
One or two of them was they had a book on percussion, the history of percussion and stuff. I don't know why I took it, but I did. And that plus, well, look, we're going back about 50 years.
I understand.
So,
Right.
I, may not have all the specifics, right? But I basically got a gift from my aunt, pair of congas, those ones you bring back from Mexico.
Yes.
Break in about 3 minutes.
Right.
But I got that, and started playing.
So hand percussion actually.
Hand percussion was
Okay.
But
okay.
You know what? I take that back, because my first aha moment, what got me started with drums.
This is valuable.
Yeah. My cousin Greg, who we would go over, his house for Thanksgiving every year. He was in the Army band.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. He played clarinet. Somebody gave him a practice pad, you know, the ones with the angle.
I have
you
one,
know,
sure.
Of course. And a pair of sticks. So he was throwing it out. He said, do you want it? I'm throwing this out. If not, you know. Said, yeah. So he gave me that. And, you know, I messed around with it for a little bit. And then it went into the closet for half a year or something. And then the sticks came out, which I then put on the congas, which is a big no-no. So it lasted about
Who knew?
5 minutes. And then I took the pad out and, you know, played along to different things. And that's how that
interesting.
started.
So,
and then I haven't put it down since.
Right. So
you know?
what might have been discarded actually became central.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, one person's garbage
Is another man's gold.
It's my career. So
that's
you know,
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's basically, you know, that was the big push.
All right.
Him giving me that, and then you know I started. You know, my parents saw my interest in it, so they got me lessons. You know, my first teacher was a Staten Islander, John Trentacosta, who's now in New Mexico. Great jazz drummer and great teacher. You know, I started. You know, I got a drum kit, and then I started playing along. At that time, I loved big band stuff and rock stuff with horns. So Chicago had just come out with, I think, their greatest hits. Maybe it was Chicago 10 or something like that.
They had a lot of them.
And the only song I could handle at the moment was Color My World. You know, just
6/8
you know,
shuffle, right?
with the cross stick. So I did that, and I worked my way up to, you know, 25 or 6/4, and then, you know, Feeling Stronger Every Day was, that was a biggie.
Danny Seraphim.
Big influence at that time.
Yeah, for sure.
At that time especially. You know, and then, like I said, I was always into big band stuff, so Buddy Rich, big influence.
Louis
I actually
Nelson.
saw, Louis, but I actually saw Buddy 2 or 3 times live, which was just the power.
Astounding.
Of course, because we had to sit in the front, you know, me and my dad. You know, we're sitting, it's like the Maxell commercials, you know, when you're sitting in the, you know, the force of the air.
Wind,
You know, because at that time he had this guy, Steve Marcus, playing sax, and he played this soprano sax solo with a wah-wah. Nobody did it at that, you know. Now you have, like, you know, Randy Brecker doing it on, you know,
that was
you have those
light
type of
years
things,
ahead.
but he was, and it was like, wow. And then, you know, then I got into the fusion stuff, you know, Steve Gadd, who was
Garibaldi.
I was never
okay.
that,
because
much
he's
of a
often
Garibaldi
cited
head.
as an early,
Yes,
you know.
yeah. You know what? Sometimes you get thrown into something. You know, I never got that. I never had that person say, "Hey, listen to this."
Right. I understand.
You know, so it never really stuck. Gadd, anything that he would do at that time, I was picking up.
Well, he was so versatile. He could play with Al Di Meola, and he could do Paul
I
Simon.
have all the Al Di Meola records with
I'm with you.
With Chick Corea, all the Steely Dan, you know, stuff. Asia. I mean, how many times did I listen to that? Plus, the album has everybody that's a heavy hitter on that. That
Stellar
is, you know.
Yeah, Ernie and
So so anything with Gadd, you know, the Paul Simon stuff, forget about. That's just ridiculous. The impact that.
I love his stuff with Ricky Lee Jones too.
Lee Jones,
he's just so full of feel, right?
Yes,
you know,
absolutely. You can't, and he's just a visual play. Like, I don't think he's so underrated visually, because you watch him play and you could just see the passion pour out. You know?
Yeah, and the ideas.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, he's so in the moment, you know, that's how I like to be. I'm not really a premeditated type of guy. You know, I like to go with the moment. You know, if I hear something going on,
right,
you know, around me, I tend to go with that.
Right.
I love the improvisational aspect of music. I like to create. I, I'm a big Rush fan, but
I can't imagine why.
yeah, but like for me personally, I know Neil could play it exactly the way. Like that's not my style. I can't. I have to do it my way.
I understand.
Nodding to what he's doing.
Of
but
course.
I got it.
Of course.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I think later on we're going to have some footage of Gary playing some Rush stuff.
Yes,
as well.
I did a project with some friends.
I know you're going to all enjoy. Right, once we clear licensing.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So getting back to that sort of in the moment, a great drummer, I'm sorry to say who's no longer with us, Tony Thompson, he once said, when you want to go for a fill, don't.
Right.
Because, then there's none of the spontaneity and you'll probably blow it
Wow.
if you're overthinking it.
You mentioned aha moments. When I saw Tony Thompson play on, I believe it was Saturday Night Live with Power Station.
With Power Station.
And he started.
Some Like It Hot.
Was it Bang It? I think it was Bang It.
Oh, yes. I think you're right.
And he started with there's like an opening drum fill. So it's whatever song it was.
Yeah.
It was opening drum fill. And I'm like, huh? It was so
nobody
strong.
like him.
There was nobody like him.
There was nobody
and his
like
sound and his feel, it was kind of like Bonham-y. He kind of had that John Bonham
with a little
feel.
Extra funk, right?
And the elasticity of
yes,
Bonham.
Great word.
Because
great word. Yes.
That's what made Bonham, because you can't put a drum machine to that. Just the way it just weaved in and out time-wise.
Yeah.
I mean, people knock that because, God forbid you're not playing, metronomically in time, but yet all the best drummers have that flexibility.
Mm-hmm. Even within a
push
click.
and pull. Within it, yeah,
within
sure.
a click.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, there are even, times where, you listen to these iconic songs and it's like, starts out in this tempo, but ends, 10, 15 beats faster.
Yep.
And it's like, who cares?
It
feels great.
It feels great.
It feels great.
It feels
and,
great.
I think people dwell on that a little bit too much. But
yeah, I'm with you. I listen. I love listening to guys like from Tull, for example, Barrymore Barlow and Clyde Bunker. There was no
bringing
click.
up all these people. I was a big.
There was no click going on.
Right? No, not at all.
But it's so precise still, because they were just great bands and great players.
Right.
And so that's some of my favorite stuff too. And try and play along to some of that early Jethro Tull stuff, guys and girls. I promise you, many hours of fun and challenges.
Right. Yeah.
For sure.
Right.
All right, so let's talk about some of the current stuff you're doing, all right? I want to go over some of the players, some of the artists you work with.
Okay.
Gloria Gaynor.
Right.
Dion.
Yeah, well, we've been with Dion
let's have
for a long time.
Yeah, you were with Dion for a long time. We'll get into that a bit more. You've got Gloria Gaynor. Who else?
I do a lot of oldies.
Yeah, that's
things.
okay. Legends.
So legends, yeah. So like the Drifters, Coasters, Platters, Lou Christie, the Tokens, Happenings. A lot of those type of groups. I did get into a little bit of the more rock stuff. Mark Farner from Grand Funk.
Sure.
I had a few things with him. Joey Mollen from Badfinger, which was
I think the only surviving member. He's the only surviving member.
Well, yeah, that's a tragic.
That's another.
He was always. I mean, the songs just incredible songs. But and then the disco people, Evelyn Champagne King, Thelma Houston.
These are all iconic drum tracks too. For their stuff.
Well, with Thelma, it was like "Don't Leave Me This Way" is such a great feeling. This drum fills everywhere. That the bass line is incredible.
Yeah. It's so
it was
great,
a blast.
such dynamic stuff.
And then I did a little stint with Tiffany.
Love her.
So that was interesting because at the time she was on that celebrity fit thing, where they lose the weight or whatever.
Celebrity fit club.
Yeah, whatever that was.
Right,
so she,
right.
so it was like all of a sudden now these like teenage kids are in the I'm used to audiences a little older.
Sure.
So that was,
right.
And then I've done things with Little Steven, working with Darlene Love, which was a blast because I've done drums with her and percussion. So you had to do all the tune bell parts, because she's big at Christmas time, with Home Alone, All Alone for Christmas. So, you had the tubular bells and the xylophone stuff.
Even the sleigh bells right there.
They're heavy.
Yes, they are.
Doing that for an hour and a half.
And to play them in time.
While doing something else.
Yes.
So that was a challenge for sure. Too. And working with Steven was a blast, in the studio and live, So that was a lot of fun. What else is there? It's really on the top of my head. That's and then I've worked with Southside Johnny for for a while, and that was fun because, like I said, I really like horn bands. Coming up from like I guess with John Trentacosta, we did a lot of big band charts and all that stuff. So, that was a big influence, So being, my age, you kind of incorporate the big band with the rock stuff.
Sure. And,
so
and
you
our
try to get
influences,
both,
our
worlds.
influences did that too, because like Peter Criss from Kiss
right.
was a swing drumming fan,
right.
and that reflected in a lot of his grooves,
right,
And
the way you set up fills and things like that. So, it was a blast playing with, because, Southside, the players were just great. I mean, they were all great players. I'm, still friends with them now. But, it was short-lived, but a great experience.
I bet.
Great experience.
I bet. Also, great songs, great classics.
Great songs, and actually, Little Steven wrote a lot of those songs for Southside.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
He had a great interview where he was joking. He said that him and Bruce in the early days, they weren't qualified to do anything else, so they just had to keep playing music.
Right. Well,
it's a great sort of a bit of history.
That's pretty most musicians. It's like we
we
really got to do this because what else are we going to do?
Yeah, it's true. It's almost like you don't have a choice.
And probably
right?
and not to knock Uber drivers, but that would be another because we're so used to driving to different places.
Yes,
that we're good at that too.
We're uniquely qualified, right?
Musicians and drivers. So
it's interesting being on the road, right? In a sense.
Yeah, I put plenty of miles on vehicles.
So let's go back a little bit. I know we kind of joked about it in the beginning, but your endorsements, right? You have cymbal endorsements, drumhead endorsements, stick endorsements.
Yeah.
And drum endorsements as well.
I have an endorsement with a company called Creation Drums.
Okay.
They're kind of not that active. They're a custom company.
Okay.
They do, and it's a.
Are they American?
It's a tough. Yeah. I'm from Jersey.
Oh.
Yeah, Secaucus.
Right over the bridge.
Yeah, well, Rutherford, whatever. I think it's Rutherford. Right now, I think they're mainly focusing on restoration, stuff like that. But they had made a couple. I have a nesting kit, which is incredible that they built. So like all the pieces go inside.
Yeah, I love it.
Great, great people to work with, and they actually through creation. That's how I got the Murat Daril, who he's a fantastic cymbal maker from Turkey, and he's worked with Paiste and Meinl, and and then he went out on his own.
Some of the big boys, sure.
And then
the cymbals sound incredible, by the way.
Yeah, the cymbals are great. I have a few of their lines, and my favorite are the Mosaics, which I have up here. But my first one was ProMark, which, funny story was, I did a job with this guy, Gary Weiss.
Oh, sure.
Who, again, when he came back in the he was back in the, the 60s, but when he came back in the mid 80s with This Little Girl Is Mine, that was written by Little Steven.
Amazing.
So it's kind of like,
so his name is back, on, he's even more influential than we would, than we know.
Yeah, because actually in Steven's studio is separated in different sections because he has his radio show, and then he has his recording studio, and then he has his TV stuff. It's like all these different facets of. It's
incredible.
He's certainly made smart.
And Silvio on The Sopranos. Let's not forget
right. All the TV stuff. Right. That's another section.
Yeah.
But we did this thing at the Financial Center in the 90s, and the guy who was doing sound and basically he was a drummer himself. After the show, I'm going, change back to my, regular clothes, whatever, something. It was about 105 degrees, so I was quite wet. So change my clothes, come back, my drums are all packed up, which to me, like, that's a no-no. Don't touch my stuff.
Fair enough.
So that was my first, that lasted maybe 30 seconds until he said, I hope you don't mind, I'm Simon Phillips, drum tech, so I'm used to doing this stuff. I figured I'd help you out, hope you don't mind. Everything is here.
Okay.
So I said, oh, okay. So he goes, I said, well, are you with any companies? And we're talking and stuff like that. And that was at the time, I think Simon Phillips was doing the Tommy thing with
Pete Townsend.
Yeah. So anyway, so he said, so I said, listen, I know a guy at ProMark, and I'll call him.
Barry and Herb Rockstein.
It wasn't him. I don't really want to mention the guy's name just in case.
Fair enough.
I don't even know if he's with them anymore.
Right.
But nonetheless, I wound up calling them up, and they said he did call to tell them about, they do, it's a small company.
Yes.
It's not as big as you think. So everybody has a lot of hats.
Yeah.
So it says, look, we don't do, artist relations until, it was like another 5 or 6 months. Just call us back, blah, blah, blah. So I did call them back, and I wound up getting an endorsement.
That's terrific.
I got the, Smith Corona typed letter.
Yeah.
This is 1992, I think, at that point. And so I got, I got that letter and, approving my, request for, endorsing the product. So I've been with them for a number of years now. Great, great company. Now, they're in Farmingdale, Dario took them over. And, the guy Steve there, great guy, really hooked me up well. And, I'm using their active grip,
love them,
which are just incredible feeling sticks.
Yeah.
And I like the rebound one because I like to do, I do a lot of shuffle stuff. In the oldies, there's a lot of shuffle.
Sure.
So I like something quick. So I go for the rebound sticks because they make the forward if you need a little more power in the front. So, but I like, so I use, 5 A's basically. 7 A's if I'm doing a restaurant thing, and I need to kind of tone it down slightly. Great company. And now, they're also, it's the same company with Evans. So,
Yes. So it's
Evans
all in the
Jazz.
family.
And then VK Drums, which was incredible to be with them. Unfortunately, I got the drums about 2 days after I did a show with Dion, the Jimmy Fallon show, which was incredible.
We're going to provide footage of this, by the way. There's a lot of Gary Weiss footage out there.
There's a lot, yeah.
We're going to edit some into this for you.
Yeah. But I unfortunately wasn't able to use, although I did use the creation snare on that, which sounded incredible. We listened back to the playback, and they have like on a different floor in the Rockefeller.
Yes.
That's where the studio is, and I'm listening back and says, "Wow, that's big. Like there's a big sound."
Yeah.
But I loved it. I mean, they're beautiful drums. Alan Van Cleef, he's in I think Sheffield, England, and he's a machinist, so he makes everything like to the screws,
Yeah.
So everything is handmade. I have a copper shell. I have a brushed aluminum. Just beautiful stuff.
Yeah. That's true.
I think that covers the endorsements.
Yeah. Well, it's a part of your sound, right?
Right.
Every drummer strives to have a signature,
Right.
and so it's good. It's good to know this stuff and what you're striving for,
Right.
in your sound and in your approach.
Right.
And talking about that, your approach. So your early influences, swing, jazz, was certainly in there, and then of course, like most of us, everybody from Bonham to Neil Peart to Danny Seraphim.
Right.
Does anybody modern, anybody around today that catches your ear? Someone who, hey, oh wow, I really dig this person's playing.
Well, when you say modern,
someone working today, someone maybe touring or recording.
Well, I mean, actually, I'm a big Mike Portnoy fan.
Okay.
I really loved his playing. I love that he could play with anybody, and has.
Yeah, for sure.
I just, I love his sound.
And he's back in Dream Theater.
So, I'm a big fan of his. I mean, Dennis Chambers is still out there actively performing, but he goes back
and he's like getting better. Like it's
I hate that. But I've actually seen Dennis Chambers when it was Dennis who?
I understand.
When he just came out with John Scofield.
Scofield, yes.
The Blue Matter tour. I went to Club Benet in New Jersey and was sitting there, and they opened up with the Blue Matter track, which you have to listen to the track to begin with. It just incorporates everything. It's a swing. It's his snare hand doing this totally non-related part to his swing, and then he comes right into this big fill, into the funkiest groove with a great snare sound, and then the bottom, good times, bad times,
yes,
double
the
kick
doubles
thing, and all you had to do is look around in the audience, and you saw everybody's jaw dropped at the same time, and it's like,
even non-drummers.
Anybody who was in the audience was, heard like that low rumble of, and it was like,
something's happening here.
Something's happening there,
right? Right.
And I had that same experience with Dave Weckl. I had gone into the city to the Lone Star to see Who It Is, because they were advertised with Steve Gadd.
Oh, okay.
So, because it was the guys from Stuff.
Right. Richard T. Right,
Richard T. God bless.
Yes, God rest him.
Totally another, like in the keyboard part, I mean, you hear him play and you know it's him. You know,
no question.
No talk question. About gospel keyboard R&B players.
Yes.
But I had gone to hopefully see Steve Gadd, but he never actually surfaced. They had a few different drummers. They had Steve Jordan. They had Chris Parker. They had a bunch of people, and then all of a sudden they had this other guy. But it was a great band, And but then next thing you know, this guy Dave somebody is sitting there, and I'm talking like mid '80s.
Yeah. So he had a fro.
Probably. Yeah. I don't know if he ever had the fro, but he was very young at that time.
Yes.
And,
with big hair, if you would.
Right. Well, I believe it was the mullet.
So, yes.
Which
the bane of our.
Yeah. Well, hey.
Of our fashion.
So, I actually saw him a bunch of times. And the really interesting part about him is that you actually heard him grow.
For sure.
Especially with that band. You heard him get more comfortable with the arrangements and opening up. And, you could see he was trying different things. You could tell that he was spending a lot of time in the practice room.
Yeah, for sure.
And I actually, a good friend of mine had gotten me a gift during COVID, a lesson with him,
Really?
Dave, yeah. So,
what a terrific gift.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Tom.
Yeah.
But, one of the things we had discussed, was that time. It was more of a discussion rather than
I understand. Yeah, sure. Sure.
I mean, I think Zoom thing, it's kind of hard to, I don't know, get a lesson like that over. It was more like picking your brain.
Right.
The lesson,
right.
Which is great because
absolutely.
Yeah. So I wound up, we were discussing those times and stuff, and wound up I have, some bootlegs, of from a Walkman, Sony Walkman that I had, and he asked me to send them to him, because I digitized them.
Terrific.
And I sent them to him, and he wrote me back how appreciated it. He didn't have anything from that time period.
Okay, I see.
Which is weird for him because he's like high tech.
Yes, for sure.
And he's into all that stuff, all that documentations, and way ahead of the time with the the play
electronics and
incorporating electronics in your playing. So it was nice to kind of share that.
For our younger fans, there was a time before the internet. If you can even imagine that, when people actually typed long written letters to one another.
Yes.
And anyway, it's great to hear these stories.
We actually used mail.
We actually used the U.S. mail, things called stamps that would facilitate the forward motion of that mail.
Yeah. So those were great times. That was like the mid '80s, late '80s.
Yeah. A lot of great music then too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
For sure. For drummers.
Yeah.
Yeah. I saw Weckl not too maybe around '89 or so with Herbie Hancock at the Beacon. Yes, and it was phenomenal. With Tommy DeVito, another Staten Island drummer. He and I were in first row, and we just of course all eyes on Dave the whole time. But it was it was a step forward.
I don't know if I've ever seen Weckl in a big. I normally seen him in clubs.
Yeah.
Like I always went to see him at McKell's with Michelle Camilo, which was an experience.
I'm sure.
Michelle is almost like a drummer on the piano.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with her, but I'll try and
It's a him.
Oh, forget.
Yeah, he's
Scratch that.
Yeah. He's like a classical Latin jazz piano player, and the first time I was introduced to it was on this album called Why Not.
Okay.
And it's him, Anthony Jackson on bass.
Another Simon Phillips band made.
It was just another jaw-dropping experience.
Yeah, transformative.
So right? I've followed Dave's career, pretty well.
Yeah, well, and you had
I love
some
the way
personal interaction with him, so that's that's fantastic.
Yeah, I really identify with. I like his approach. A lot of the stuff he does is kind of taken from the GAD, frame of mind. So, but he has the more contemporary, approach to that. And you can't. I mean, his influence, this Chick Corea stuff.
It's singular.
I saw that. Actually, I shouldn't say I didn't see Dave Weckl in a big play because I saw the acoustic band at the Financial Center inside. So there's a few thousand people.
Nice.
Patitucci and
sure,
the trio, which was phenomenal. I mean, anything he does, I love.
I sure we understand that.
So and the stuff he's done with Mike Stern. I'm a big Mike Stern fan. I love the way he sounds and plays, and the people he uses.
Yeah, I saw some great shows at 7th Avenue South when that was with Mike Stern.
Right. Yeah.
Really, really dynamic.
Well, my friend Bob plays with sax with.
Oh, terrific!
So,
terrific.
Actually, I got to get to see him with, other than on on video, but I got to get to see him live.
We'll have to go.
We gotta. Yeah.
We'll have to go.
Time is fleeting, so we got to get out there and support.
Yeah.
And just witness these icons.
Absolutely, absolutely. Any chance to see a legend, take it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
And Gary, I want to, for the Drummers Universe people out there, give me a bit of quick drumming advice. Something that you can tell, just call it drum wisdom.
Okay.
Something, that anybody watching right now could take it with them to the practice kit and, and get some Gary Weiss wisdom.
Well, I think one of the most important, if not the most important thing, which I don't know if you could actually take it to the kit, but
or the practice pad, or
I think you can take it to your practice room.
Okay.
Well, as far as the practice pad goes, definitely get your hands in shape, get all that stuff going, but always keep in mind the music. Don't play for yourself, play for the music, but enhance the music. Like some people say, yeah, I play for the music, meaning, well, I'm not going to add anything. That doesn't mean don't add something. It just means keep that music in mind. I always kind of add little things, but I try to place it so it doesn't get in the way.
Sure.
Just make sure everything is solid and stuff. But most important thing is come to a gig prepared. Put the time into it. Whether the gig pays, $100, $600, $1,000, whatever it is, put that work into it. Because I know for a fact, in my past experience, that I'll get the calls, back to do more gigs. because I could come into a show and, know the gig as well or better than, and not to sound egotistical, because I know that could sound egotistical.
It's not.
But
it's
to
the
know the
truth.
gig so that nobody could think that I'm not the regular drummer. And don't be a jerk. I think that's
this is
the one
golden
thing.
Advice.
Don't be a jerk. Music, and on all levels, I think, whether you're traveling, I think especially when you're traveling, because, a lot of times I spend between, an airport, transporting to a hotel, from the hotel to the venue, the sound check, the hanging in the venue, and then you play for an hour and a half. But I already spent 10 hours with the person. So, you got to be somebody that could hang, and
Right.
somebody that wants to be around. Don't always have. You don't always want to, air your dirty laundry. Like, have some freshness. Have a light.
Mm-hmm.
There's enough darkness. We
That's
need
for
more
sure.
light.
And we're messengers of light as musicians
Absolutely.
and artists.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's what we want to
Right,
be.
because the audience, they kind of put you on a pedestal, even though they don't know half that. They don't know you just schlepped all your stuff through the greasy floor kitchen of the
Right. Right.
the Pierre Hotel or
Right.
something, whatever. No offense, Pierre Hotel. But people think that it's so glorious. There's a lot of stuff behind the scenes.
It's a long way to the top if you want to rock and roll.
That's right. That's right. So really, I mean, everybody's got something to offer. So as long as you could come to the gig playing your instrument, I think being prepared, get a recording of a live show, know the tempos that, the artists like. And then just don't get in the way, and just do your job, and then, be a nice person about it.
And try and have fun.
And
right?
try to have fun. Right.
Right,
Yeah. There's
right.
stuff. Yeah. I mean, I'm always having fun. If I have two sticks in my hand, I'm having fun.
There's a quote: "If I have two sticks in my hand, I'm having fun."
That's it. So, I mean, and even if you're playing in, whatever, a bar, you get there, whatever, an hour before, you're setting up your stuff, you got to play for 3-4 hours, you hang, you have breaks, you're hanging with the people in the club. And it's like, try to be personable, just try to be a nice guy. Try to be somebody that people want to come see,
Mm-hmm.
Because there's no reason to be a jerk.
That's true.
It doesn't do anybody any good.
I agree.
But, as far as your
agree.
craft goes, you got to, do the best you can with that. I mean, I'm not a self-taught person by any means. I have to be told what to do. I have to be shown what to do. But I listen, and I focus.
I want to go back a bit. You had mentioned Jimmy Fallon and with Dion.
Yeah.
Tell me a little more about that experience.
Well, I've been with Dion since 2004. So,
If I can just stop you there,
yeah.
For those of our fan base and for people who follow Drummers Universe, Dion, look up Dion and the Belmonts. Look up Dion. I promise you, this is some music that you're really, really going to love if you're not familiar with it.
Yeah.
Please go
Well,
on.
Dion, the people who are Dion fans in the industry, Robert Plant, Paul Simon,
Paul McCartney, Billy
all
Joel.
these people.
Billy Joel said he wanted to be a Belmont.
Right.
He said he
right. Well,
wanted to be a
that's
Belmont.
why he did all those doo-wop
Yes.
songs.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, these are the people, you know, that have come to shows. You know.
Yeah.
And like I'm in awe. You know, we did a show opening up for Bob Dylan. It was called, I think, the United Palace Theater, I think. And, you know, I'm looking over and there's Elvis Costello by the, you know, and it's like, it's crazy, all the people who are. But I've been with Dion since, you know, 2004. And, you know, we've done a lot of really great shows together. And one of the things we did with Jimmy Fallon's show, which is, you know, a great experience. So, you know, and going back to the oldies stuff, I've worked with Questlove's dad.
Oh, okay, okay.
He had a Lee Andrews and the Hearts. That's his thing. Lonely Night. I forgot what the song was called. I'm sorry. We'll have to.
We can look it up.
We'll edit that out. But in any case, you know, I don't know. Maybe it was a regional hit, whatever. But he was on a lot of the shows. So sometimes I would play with his dad. A lot of times Questlove would play.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so we did a lot of hanging out together. His wife, Leanne, you know, was Questlove's father's wife. Questlove's mom.
Questlove's mom.
And his sister would
Mama
be
Love.
also would be they sang background vocals, and Questlove did, you know, drums.
Mm-hmm.
So we were on a lot of shows together. Sometimes if Questlove was busy, you know, I'd play with his father. But, you know, so we've known each other for years, you know, but I hadn't seen him in a while.
Right.
And unfortunately, a year before that show, his father passed away. But anyway, so we're talking, and, you know, I'm offering my condolences, and, you know, his dad, and, you know, so it was nice to see him.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Know. And the show got so, a lot of people saw it, which was really nice. And that's kind of how I got the VK endorsement.
Okay.
You know.
So one thing leading to another.
One thing leads
right?
to another, right. So, because I was already interested in the drum, because I love this stuff. Todd Zuckerman put up some things. He made some snares for him. Made snares for Steve Gadd.
Okay.
Danny Carey from Tool. I think he always uses live. He uses his snare. I think he also has a kit made for it. You know, beautiful stuff. You got to check out, you know, vkdrums.com, you know, and check out some of the stuff he's done. But, you know, so doing the show was quite amazing. You know, the way they well,
just to be in that studio, right?
Just to be in the studio. Yeah. There's so much history there.
30 Rock, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, you know, the way they set up everything, you know, mark everything, and then they have to strike it because there's no room. You know, it's such a small studio.
Right.
That, you know, like all the other guests come out that same way, and it's like you'd have all the equipment there, and it's like, you know. So anyway, you know, and so they set it up during commercials, you know. And it was just a great experience, you know. It was so positive. Unfortunately, there was one. I think we did another. I think we did The Wanderer as like an extra online thing.
I see.
And you know, they take it down after a while. I think it stays up for like a year or something.
Oh,
like that.
Okay.
And then they take it down. But you know, there's still one guy in Germany, I think, has it on YouTube or something with, you know.
Okay.
So, you know, I think there's something surfacing on YouTube that, But it was a great experience. I mean, the way they just have it down. The camera, all the camera angles and all that other stuff. And of course, me being set up where I am, I'm always in back of the artist, so I get I get some good footage. I'm always back there, So
I remember. I guess it was the early '90s. Dion. He had a return to form album, King of the New York Streets.
King of New York Streets, right?
And he sang very honestly about his cocaine struggles.
Yeah.
In fact, that's even in the lyrics, I believe.
It is.
Right? This attitude comes from cocaine lies.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember thinking, what a brave, and it was great music too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, what a great experience.
Well, I mean, he talks about his addiction struggles and how he overcame it, and his religion. And, we've had many discussions about that. And he's quite a guy.
Yeah,
he's quite a guy. So right now he's taking a little break.
He's 84 years old. God bless him.
He's taking a break. We just did the Joe Bonamassa cruise, which was a blast. And I just think he wants to have some downtime, which is cool.
Sure, of course.
So if he, but anything live, it's the band, So we go out and and it's always top-notch stuff. And that stuff, the stuff I do with Gloria, they really treat the bands nice, but things change, and people get older, and
of course,
takes a little different direction, and you just go with it, luckily, I have a few pots that I draw from, and
Well, you're an educator as well, right? You
not as much as I could be.
I understand, but you teach. You have a position where you're teaching students. If I'm not mistaken.
I do, yeah. Well, I actually
not drum students, right? But
no, it's actually bucket drumming.
Okay.
I teach an after-school program that started out. I mean, actually, I do a lot of different things. But
tell us about
one
that.
of them is, a bucket drumming. I work with, what they call those boom whackers, the plastic tubes. I try to incorporate, rhythm to people that have no either knowledge on that type of stuff, or in some cases capabilities of keeping time. So it's quite a challenge. It's quite a challenge. But I like sharing the whatever knowledge I have.
Right. Right.
I think drummers naturally do that anyway. We like, because there's always these drum clinics and things like that you don't see in or at least you don't see many in other instruments.
True. True.
And it's great, just to share your knowledge, and because we all have to take from something, and we take that percentage, and then that percentage, and that percentage, and it all channels, and then whatever enters you is you.
Right. Well, it's true
because you could get from the same three people. But if you take, 33% of this, and then I take 70% of that, I'm already over 100, aren't I? Yeah. So there goes my math.
But the point is made. And as long as you can still count to 4, we're all...
That's it. That's all I can do is count to 4, and I'm counting 70. It's like, what am I doing? I'm way over my head. Yeah. But the point is that, everybody takes a little bit, and it kind of filters it in,
Yeah. Well, that is, what you said is very true about the drumming community. We have things like the PASIC show, right?
Right, sure.
Percussive Arts Society shows.
Which I need to actually get to one of these days.
Yeah, they're really...
I've never been to...
Yeah, there aren't guitarist conventions and there aren't keyboard conventions, but there's a lot of drum conventions.
Right, sure. Yeah.
And that that really speaks to a lot of who we are, you know, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And you can go and at the right time, maybe have a conversation with Dave Weckl, and he's open to talking to you.
Right.
Maybe you can ask Kenny Aronoff, hey, what'd you play on that track? It's, you know, it's a very welcoming and open community.
Yes.
And, you know, we certainly at Drummers Universe appreciate you lending your time and your knowledge, and I'm really, really grateful, my man. Really.
It's
thanks.
My honor.
Thanks so much. All right, everybody, keep on playing, keep on practicing,
and don't be a jerk.
And don't be a jerk. And if you have a pair of sticks in your hand,
you'll be happy.
You'll be happy. Once again, Gary Weiss. I'm Jonas Manashowitz with Drummers Universe. Thanks so much, my man. All the best, everyone. Peace and paradiddles.
Yes, absolutely. And don't be a jerk.
And don't be a jerk.